Hi,
Okay.
Facebook.
So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being patient with us. We're working through our technology. This is our first time using our Zoom link. My name is Renee Smith. I'm the CEO and founder of Independent Authors Book Experience. And tonight we are excited to restart the Author Speak, which is a monthly event that we typically host at the Roselle Public Library. But since COVID, we have postponed our sessions, but we're so grateful to God that we are being able to pivot. And at this time, and we are able to host in this virtual space via Facebook and using Zoom, and the technologies was giving us a little fight in the beginning, but we figured it out. And going forward, we will be hosting our Author Speaks right here on Facebook. And if you miss it, you can catch it, the replay on Facebook as well as on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. With no further ado, I would like to present our two authors for today. And we have Miss Ayanna Mcneil.
Hi, how are you? Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. And we have Mr. Ben Chewy.
Hello, it's an honor to take part of this.
Yes, so we're just gonna jump right in because we lost a little bit of time, but it's okay. And I just want you guys to just introduce yourselves, just tell people, just a little bit about who you are. So if you don't mind, Ben, we're gonna start ladies first. Ayanna, if you'll just introduce yourself and just let the audience know a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely, thank you. Hi, my name is Ayanna Mcneil. I am an author, spoken word artist, poet, and owner of Harriet Returned, LLC. I am also a motivational speaker, and I am from Brooklyn, New York. Woo. And by day, yes, shout out to Brooklyn. By day, I'm a mental health professional, and I work for the Department of Health. And I have been writing for over 20 years. And I just love creating stories that tell the narrative of my experience of being from Brooklyn, being a woman, being proud, being Black. And that's the platform that I use.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And Ben, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep. I'm currently working in public education with some volunteer TV work on the side. I've been writing for a while, but it's the first book I've published. And I guess a few other things. I like voice acting is another side job and a few other things.
Okay. And where are you from, Ben?
I'm from Cranford, New Jersey. I was born in Brooklyn.
Oh. All right.
But
we have two Brooklynites here.
Fortunately, I moved before I can remember anything for that. So I pretty much lived in Cranford most of my life.
Okay. All right. So you've heard a little bit about them. So now what we really are here now is to hear about the books that they're here to present. So Ayanna, can you just tell us a little bit about your book that you have? And if you want to share the cover with us?
Sure, I will share it. Can everybody see?
Yes. And just so you know, we will put the books and the titles up on our Facebook page. So we'll definitely share them after if you didn't get it now. So yes.
Thank you. So this book is actually 10 years old. I self-published in 2010. And the title of my book is Before There Were Guns, There Were Gods. It's a collection of poetry, most of which I wrote in high school and in college when I went to Lincoln University. And I decided after I had graduated in 2008 that I really wanted to have my work published. And I went up through the process of self-publishing and published my baby. This is my 10-year-old baby.
That's a big baby.
It is. It's been growing, and I still find pleasure and joy in the poems in this book. I can see the growth in me and what I was writing about in 04 and 05 and 06. Right. But it is a collection of poems, and it strings together themes of what was going on during that time. So we were under Bush administration, so there's some poems about that. Hurricane Katrina, there are some poems about that. So in that time period, it's kind of a time stamp of who I was as a person in 2005, 2004, when most of these poems were written.
Okay, okay. And that was, I can't even remember that year. But I'm sure there's, when you read the poems, I'm sure you'll get a grasp of what exactly was happening during that time frame. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So Ben, can you tell us a little bit about your book? And yeah.
All right. Well, it's American Tango. Let's see. I started writing it a few years ago, but the past year, with a lot of extra free time, I went back to finish it. And it's a half romance, half drama. It's about characters Kevin Summers and Allison Winters meet up for the first time in 16 years. They haven't seen each other since middle school, and it's a lot has changed, obviously, and they're both trying to find their own way across life in different ways, and they're trying to deal with how the world's shaped things, and they're trying to figure out a way to break through and still hold on to their own identities, because the world can be pretty demanding. Yeah. And it's not like what they thought it was going to be growing up, but in their own ways, they're both trying to figure out how to move on while still being who they want to be.
Yeah, and I think, as adults, well, we're all adults here, your world is not what we thought it was, or especially now, it's definitely not what anyone thought it would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ben, what was the inspiration for your book?
For me, there was a few inspirations. One was the American Graffiti movie made by George Lucas. That was a movie about the 1950s, but it was inspired me about a character dealing with the times, trying to make his own way. And so it's a bit updated compared to what happened then, but hopefully it has a few things coming with that. Another one would be the movie Garden State, where it's another character who's come home after a long time and has seen how it's changed. He's trying to move on with life and deal with things. And in that movie, there was a guy who came home, and in my book, it's the woman who came home. So it's a few differences, but even so. Okay. And just a few other things like Grapes or Rap and other, stories about people going through hard times, trying to come together. And, it's because if everyone's happy, there'll be no conflict in the book. So people are not quite happy with how things are, and they're just trying to figure out how to deal with it in a constructive way, you could say.
Yeah. And I think that's, I think that's probably helpful during this time, because we're all trying to deal with something. We're dealing with COVID, we're dealing with just life, job, home, work, that kind of stuff. So it's, there's a lot that's going on there. And I know, Ayanna, you mentioned that your book was 10 years old, but, you did mention, some of your inspiration for some of the poems that you wrote, where were you were getting your inspiration from things that are going on around you, but what was the hardest part about writing this book?
I have to say it wrote itself. I was challenged when I was in school by an incredible educator, Kathy Wright Lewis. And she told us about the African tradition of being a griot. A griot is a historian and a storyteller in Africa, in ancient civilizations of Africa, and they were more revered and honored than the chiefs and the kings of those villages and of those communities, because they held the tradition and told the story through generation. And when I was 14, Kathy was an English teacher at my high school and created a poetry group and said that you all are griots of your time. You have the responsibility of telling your story now. Somebody one day will read about your experience, and you have to paint the picture for them. And so I was just inspired. I was inspired to make sure that my story was told my way, by me. And I was empowered. I was told that I could do it. I was told that I could write. And so the poems kind of wrote themselves just based on what was happening in the world. We were in war. We were dealing with recessions and crisis and a whole lot. And the title of the book actually kind of frames up the poems in the book. Before there were guns, there were gods.
Right.
Literally means that before we created weapons or things of destruction, we were closer to our godlike self. We were closer to our divinity. We walked a little bit more upright. And so the poems kind of flow in that same vein with that message. Oh, wow. So they wrote themselves, so it wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
And I just kind of pieced it all together and self-published. So it wasn't difficult actually writing the pieces.
And going off of that, because at the time when you wrote those poems, you said you were 14 years old, you were inspired then. So how has your 14-year-old self changed from then to now? What kind of growth do you see in your work?
I hope I changed from I would say to 14-year-old Ayanna, you were incredibly powerful then, and you are a lot more wiser now. There's definitely some fire behind most of my poems that I guess is just a youthful teenage fire. But I definitely have grown. There's just a deeper skill in writing. My skill has grown as a writer since high school. But I would say I was more of a performer then. So my pieces were written with the style of let me get on stage and rock the mic. So a lot of the poems in the book have that flow and have that hit to it. Whereas now I may write a poem that may not be for the stage, but for the page.
Okay. I like that. Not for the stage, but for the page.
Thank you. Thank you.
Even in your speech, you're lyrical. I love it. I love it. So Ben, going back, because I just wanted to, you speak of different books that you were inspired by when you wrote your piece. Were any of the characters in your book based off of anyone in real life or real people then?
Well,
or are they all coming from your imagination?
It's a bit half and half, I suppose you could say.
Okay.
The core of the characters are inspired by people I know, but I did add stuff from fictional characters like family situations like The Simpsons or Family Guy, or even older shows I watched growing up, like Home Improvement of Tim Allen.
Okay.
All those family shows, because it was like, it's humorous watching Homer Simpson be a goofball and drag the family down for years and years, but it's not quite so funny. I guess I was trying to write that it's not quite funny when you're trapped with kind of people that make things so dysfunctional, and you can't, unlike a cartoon where you can just reset things or stuff like that. With people living like that, it's like if Bart was really there for 20 years, would he still be the same kind of attitude or something like that?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, because when I used to watch The Simpsons, like I was a diehard Simpsons fan, and I haven't watched it in many moons now, but I definitely get the if Bart was still there, where would he be kind of thing. Like, I don't know, would he, how would have Homer's rhetoric driven him to drink or something?
I think he would have been president. I think Bart Simpson would have been president.
Anything could happen.
Anything can happen. Woo.
That's true.
Boy. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
So Ben, what was you mentioned that some of the writing is based on real and some are fictional characters. What was the hardest part, you would say, writing the book? Because you mentioned earlier that you started writing years ago, and then you kind of just like went through this, I would say, growth spurt, and you just writing and you just like, I'm done. Yeah. What was the hardest part, getting to that point where you were able to finish writing the book? Or what was the hardest part of writing the book, I should say?
Well, Renee, I guess it's because it's a drama, it's like you can't just say, oh, and then they went to the moon or something like that. So I wanted to make it realistic without just being, and then he went to the store and that was the end. I guess so. Pretty much, I want it to be realistic while also being an entertaining narrative, and like having the characters be realistic while still being, hopefully, still being enjoyable enough to be like, oh God, isn't it already, and stuff like that. So went back and forth and went with a few ideas, and by now I'm satisfied. I think I got a right balance to make it realistic while still entertaining enough narrative.
Yeah.
And because like say for the town, I made it Springfield, and homage to Simpsons, but also not any Pacific Springfield, just so anyone from anywhere could be like, oh yeah, that reminds me of my town. So I left that part intentionally vague, so you don't know what state they're from.
Okay.
So I guess so hopefully more people can relate to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just going back to Ayanna, because one of the things that when you think of, and Ben, you talk about you're writing and you're kind of going back and forth in your head, and for you, Ayanna, how has the idea of what poetry, how has your idea of what poetry is changed since you began writing poems? Like, kind of walk me through, because you had a vision for it. How has that changed in your mind from the time your 14-year-old self writing to now? And I don't know your age now, but I'm just saying.
I'm 33. I'll share my age. Poetry to me is it's deeply personal, and it's deeply spiritual. I think there's the niche and the popular, like the deaf poetry, the slams, and the Nuyorican, and then there's the arena of spoken word, and then there is the crafting and the writing of it, and it's very personal. It's a personal thing, and it's always been that way for me. And it helps me in other ways of writing, because I don't just write poetry. I'm actually in the process of finishing a trilogy. I wrote a fictional novel, so I'm in the process of publishing the first of 3. And I also am working on writing a daily motivational book. So, but poetry is at the root of everything that I write. It's a style. It's how you play with words. It's how you piece together and string together an idea, and say it in a way that somebody may not have thought of.
Right.
But poetry is my base. It's what I can easily do, and it's what I easily go back to. I'm flexing and moving into fiction and writing fiction, and excited about that, and excited about, I guess, self-help. We can call it self-help, moving into that arena. Yeah. But at the core of everything I do is a poem, and it is poetic. So it's kind of like home base for me. Okay.
And you kind of threw something out there at us, and then I'm going to dig a little bit more, because you talk about other genres of books, but can you tell us this a little bit more, or is it very close to heart? Can you give us an idea or a sampling of what we can expect from your new
I would love to. It is so it's a trilogy series, and it's a suspense, romance, drama, all of the above. It's a story of 6 friends, college friends. They're now in their 30s, and this mystery man comes into one of their lives and kind of creates some mayhem and havoc. And there's a lot of cliffhangers and drama, and trying to figure out who this man is, what his intention is, why is he now in this circle of friends, and what he wants from them. And I wrote that book. I wrote the first book in college too. I wrote that over 10 years ago, but I wrote it for fun. That's what I do. So I wrote a book for fun, never thinking it would be published, never thinking I would release it. And then I'm a part of a writing workshop called Power in the Pen. Shout out to my Power in the Pen family. And I would share the book every week, because we would have to come and read something every week and share out. And the class just got so engrossed in the story and was like, okay, what's next? Like, so are you writing book 2? And I was like, no, no, this is not serious. And they're like, no, it's good. It needs to come out. You need to publish it. And we need a sequel. And then So I wrote the second book, and the second book has been written. And they were like, okay, so what about book 3? And so I promised them 3 books, and I have to finish writing book 3. Book 3 is about 10 chapters down.
Oh.
And then that's it. Then the story's over.
Okay.
But I'm excited. I'm trying to self-publish the first one by February. So hopefully at the top of the year, the book 1, which is entitled Half of What You See, The Scars of Love, will be out. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about the book. And when you publish your second book, please come back and share with us what we want to hear more. So Ben, okay, you've written your first book. Are you interested in writing in another genre?
Oh, yes. Actually, I've already written a fantasy series. In fact,
you have tons of books sitting here just waiting to be published.
That's right.
Not quite, but here's like a half picture of my fantasy series I'm working on, if you can see it.
Wow.
Did you draw that? Did you draw
I
that?
wish I did, otherwise I could be a professional artist, but I did commission an artist to draw this. It's my main character in that. And the demonic side is his alter ego, kind of like Batman or the Daredevil, because it's right now called the Xylos Chronicles. It's a bit of elements from Batman and Star Wars and a few other series. Admittedly, over the pandemic, I've probably written enough to make it a whole trilogy already, but I'm trying to figure out how to narrow that down to get the first book out for a published state. And it'd be nice to be a series one day on the published stuff and all that. So just to figure out the code, the puzzle, the best way to get the first book out now.
Oh, nice. I guess, so you're in good company, Ben, because Ayanna, you guys are kind of in the same boat, having all these stories just working on, and now she has a trilogy coming and you're working on a trilogy, getting that idea of what goes in which book and the sequence of events so that it makes sense and it really pulls together. So I definitely, understand how getting, just putting it all together. Because for me, I'm an author as well, and I write in the children's book genre, and I do picture books. And I was just saying to myself, I said, my boys are older because I started writing when they were younger to inspire them to read, and now they're older, and I'm like, I need to be able to capture something for them because they're teenagers and beyond. So I said, I'm going to work on something else. So I'm picking their brains as to say, okay, what would you be interested in reading? So we're working through, I'm doing my research to see. So,
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get onto that part of it.
I say once a writer, always a writer. If you can write, you can write,
Yeah.
You'll always have something to create. That's exciting.
Yeah, that is. And I think that as writers, we, sometimes a lot of people get stuck in their genre. I don't say stuck, but, they stay in one genre. But if you really extend yourself, you'll find that you have other things to say in other genres as well. I've even dipped and dabbled in poetry. I want to do a book of poems too. So
nice.
A little competition, Miss.
Nice.
I'm hoping to be as lyrical as you. The words just flow off your tongue. Actually, we should have you share one of your poems for us before.
I would love to. I would love to.
Yeah, you could do that. Absolutely. But I'm gonna just I want to ask you, Ben, because you kind of talk of your characters in your book, American Tango. Mm-hmm. Which is your favorite character, or if you have one, and which is your favorite and which is your least favorite?
Okay. Let's see. Well, my number one favorite would probably be a tie between the main characters, Kevin and Allison, just because they are the main characters and I wrote them the most, and I sympathize with their journeys, you could say. I relate to their struggles. Mm-hmm. I hopefully enjoy their development. But the second one would be the Kevin's best friend, Bart, who's he's not as big a role, but when he's around, he kind of lives up the situation, one of those characters that, for better or worse, gets the ball rolling and pushes things along, so to speak.
Okay.
And least favorite would probably be the main antagonist, Chandler. I don't want to spoil too much, but he's just one of those kind of guys you really most people would probably like to hate, just because as an entitled, he's, you know, he's so well off, he really just assumes he's like one of those people that thinks they're gods at this point, and just like, snaps fingers, and you know, it's like
it's happened.
You know some people like that in real life.
Yes. You just said Bart, and I just made the connection. Is that to The Simpsons?
Not Bart Simpson.
Because Bart has a tendency to liven up the stuff. When he comes around, he tends to liven up the place.
He sure does.
Yeah, when you said Bart, I was like, is that to Bart, a nod to Bart Simpson? But okay.
Yeah. I don't want to by Disney, so it's definitely a different Bart.
Okay. So Ayanna, I know I kind of put you on the spot. So do you have one, or do you need a minute, or can you?
I'm flipping. I'm gonna find one. Absolutely.
I should have.
I will censor any language. I don't know what audience we have, so I'll censor any language that needs to be censored.
Okay.
This poem, I used to perform this poem a lot in high school, actually, because it was a choreo poem, meaning that several poets wrote a piece of their poem.
Okay.
And we were, again, a part of a poetry group back in Benjamin Banneker Academy high school. That's my high school. And under the direction of Kathy Wright Lewis. So we used to perform this poem entitled, They Used to Kill Poets, because she told us a lesson about the fact that at one point, poets were persecuted for telling the truth and telling their stories. And again, that whole sentiment of being a griot and upholding history. And so this piece was written, I dated it, so it's dated in the book. It was written March 25th, 2004. And I dedicated it to the runaway slaves of the 21st century, which was the name of our poetry group. So you can just tell how revolutionary we were. And to Benjamin Banneker Academy for Community Development, my high school. As revealed in Revelations 3:22, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. I, the Spirit, scream, they used to kill poets. For we were not convinced life was about open orgasms and idle time to spare. Us love revolutionaries were so provocative we were feared. We were the voices of God that led Moses. We birthed salvation in Congo and burned with 4 little angels in churches. We were the strange fruits dripping bloody juices into America's roots and the infant cries of South Africa who knew apartheid aided AIDS. James Byrd Jr. left a trail of poetic verses as he was dragged through the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. We fill open mics with the power of lightning and thunder. Abla Lawima rolled with the roots in Emmett Till. We were the hands that allowed the world to feel. And we sat next to Mandela and Martin in jail. They used to kill poets for standing eloquently in courthouses to fight for sitting in the front of the struggle. Like Brother Jamar said, we are still a product in the white man's hustle. He better watch his sanity because they used to kill poets. Don't you know it? We got Sister Cook telling brothers if the shoe fits, wear it to walk with her while honoring the old heads. And Mama Wright Lewis telling all her kids, N-word I am not, N-word I will never be. I'm not afraid of freedom or prosperity. They used to kill poets like Black men with books. Like Nikita and Jelani, they shot them off project rooftops for being kings. They strangled and raped queens like Miss Samuels or Sharice or Nikki, the original G, for they envied their abilities. They used to kill poets as predominant as Harriet Tubman's sister Maisha and Sadiqa, who led the blind to see freedom through love. I can't forget some still try to crucify me, because when slaves could not read, I was in love with poetry. They used to kill poets, y'all.
Ooh, woo! Thank you. I gotta do. You got some finger snaps for that one. Woo!
And I was in 2004. I was 16.
Oh, wow. Wow.
16 years old.
That's
in
powerful.
March of 2004.
That is powerful.
Thank
That
you.
is powerful. I feel your 16-year-old self, and that was a very powerful poem. It just, and it's still relevant.
Thank you.
It's still relevant. So
thank you.
Kudos.
And the names in the poem were classmates and people in the poetry group with me, and then some teachers and some of my fellow classmates who were also poets in the group. So okay. Shout out to them. Shout out to the runaway slaves of the 21st century and to Danica. And just that experience, that experience was magical. We performed that poem on stage, radio, and television. We performed as high school students with Saul Williams. I don't know if you know the poet Saul Williams. We opened for him. It was a magical time in my young life of being a writer and a performer. Yes, that was beautiful. I would love to see you as a collective, performing that. I think that would have been. We need a reunion. It's been a long time. Yes. Yes. People are all over the world now. People are. Well, I'm putting it out there. Hey, we have Zoom now. We can connect over Zoom. That's true. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna invite you. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna invite you. Yeah, absolutely, definitely. I would love to be there. And you mentioned and you speak so highly of your writing group and the groups that you're a part of. I want to just ask Ben real quickly, and then I'll come back to you, Ayanna. Are you a part of a writing group? Was there any group or any group of people that were instrumental in helping you to get your thoughts together, or, putting your thoughts on paper?
Some of my English teachers growing up, both in high school and college. And I have a few online groups online and a few other places I went to, but I haven't been seeing them too much because, coronavirus and all that. But there's been people to help me along the way. There's a lot of people to give me advice, what to do, what not to do. Mm-hmm. I went to a few writing conventions and stuff like that to try and hopefully learn a few new tricks. And I got this far, so I hope they did something right.
Yeah. And I mean, and do you see the value and the importance of connecting with a group, as a writer? And I'll ask that to you as well, Ayanna. Ben, how valuable was it for you to be with these groups?
Pretty valuable, because, having feedback is pretty important, so you don't look quite so silly. It's like, I have this great idea. Oh, it was a horrible idea. And you pointed that out, Carl. That plot could have sunk the whole project.
And, I think sometimes, as authors, everything like, when Ayanna brought her book, she's like, this is my baby. And this is your 10-year-old baby. But, when you start off the process, and, I host a writers group myself, and one of the things I tell them is that your first draft is just that, your first draft. It's not going to be perfection. You're going to work and you're going to tweak it and you're going to make it what you would like it to be. But your first draft is really that, your first draft. And I think being in a group, it helps to give you that, they give you that pull and that push to say, yes and no, and why did you say that, and why are you doing that? So I definitely can see the value in it. And I know Ayanna speaks so highly of all her groups, so you mentioned that it was very valuable. I mean, is that something that you would encourage, like an up-and-coming poet or an author, a writer? What are your thoughts on? Absolutely. I share in the sentiment of getting constructive feedback, getting just support in the writing process. Mm-hmm. What you're creating is yours and yours alone. However, sometimes you get stuck in a bubble. You might get writer's block, stuck in a rut, and somebody will ask a question that'll spark you to write something different or move the story along. So I absolutely recommend for writers, aspiring writers, people who don't have one sentence on the page, come to a writing workshop. Come to the writing workshop that I'm a part of. And we do it virtually now. Power in the Pen, you can find it on Facebook. And it's a family. We're not just a workshop, we are a family. So we support each other, we promote each other, we encourage each other.
I would not be publishing a trilogy novel without the writing workshop, because they basically forced me to write it and told me that it was good enough to be published, and to take it serious. And it is that type of encouragement that you'll get in a group of people who believe in your craft. And when I was a student, it gave me, fellowship, friendship, and a collection of other conscious, like-minded people writing and creating. And we became a family. It wasn't just a poetry group, it was a family. So I stand behind joining a writing workshop. I stand behind having a group of people who can give you constructive feedback, ask those questions, point out the holes in your plot. Like, oh, you ended it too quick. What happened?
Yes.
Wait, that didn't make sense. You said this last chapter, now you said that. You might miss that if you're the only person reading your stuff. If you're the only person, and you can't edit your own stuff. You cannot edit your own stuff.
I can vouch for that. It gets extremely frustrating trying to attempt that.
Yes, it is. Listen. You can't. You're too close to it.
You're too close.
There's no degrees of separation. So you need somebody else's hands on your work, and it helps. It helps a lot.
Yeah, you need that second pair of eyes. And one of the things, a part of our organization, IABX, we do have a writer's workshop, the IABX Writers Cafe, which we meet every Monday, and we are doing it virtually now. So anyone who is under my voice, who are hearing me, you can tune in. You can check on our Facebook page and learn a little bit more about our group, and we meet virtually. So far, like Ayanna said, and Ben, we're a supportive group. We're here to help you get your thoughts on paper, but not only that, to help you make it make sense for you, because a lot of the times you hear people say, oh, I have like 3 books I want to write, and I have 4 books I want to write. And I said, did you write it down? Oh, no, I just, it's all here. So we start to get you to the point where you put it on paper, write it down. And then as a collective, we're helping you to make sure it makes sense. And it's just pulling it together and, asking the questions. Why did you say that? Why did you write that? And you get to that point where you're finally published. And I have to say, so far we've had 3 or 4 people from our group who are published, because we're able to help them to get to that point. And these are people who all only had the dream of publishing because they had the idea. So definitely it's very helpful to be in a group that you can have that constructive criticism. And if you're not getting that constructive criticism, I think you need to leave the group, because all groups are not made equal.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, so you find that group that really supports your growth and definitely pushes you along. But we have just a few more questions. We're winding down. We're in our 15-minute mark. And I want to ask you, pen and paper or computer?
For me, I have to be computer. My handwriting's horrible. Handwriting it'd be like trying to discover ancient Egyptian or Latin or something.
You're funny, Ben.
Thanks.
What about you?
It depends on where I am. If I'm by my computer, it's definitely computer before pen and paper. But if I'm in the street and something hits me, then I'll grab a pen and write it. But mostly computer.
Okay. Computer. You know what? The last time I asked this question to authors, someone said my phone. And I never even thought about it, because that's, we have our phones around all the time. So did any of you ever use your phone for?
All the time. Well, I count the phone and the computer like the same thing. It's like,
okay.
I put them in the same vein.
Yeah. But, okay.
Well, for me, I don't do too much writing, just because I always keep typing how much autocorrect keeps getting in the way and stuff like that. It's like the moves turn out to be the market and stuff like that. And it's like, well, this is definitely not the story I was going to write out. So mostly laptops or desktops or that kind of
thing. Okay.
And Google Docs is my favorite thing, because it saves it in real time. You can track the changes. So I use Google Docs for everything. I write in Google Docs all the time.
Yeah, I, I, I am not a Google Docs. I'm not really a big fan of Google Docs.
Really? I love it.
I don't know. I think that's maybe why I have like 10 versions of the one piece, because every time I hit the button so that I don't lose it, I'm like, did I save this yet? And I save it again. And then when I go and I sort, I'm like, why do I have like 10 versions of the same thing? Like, where does the last one? I have to go by date and stuff. So I will give Google Docs a try again.
It's good. I'm telling you, you can track the changes. It saves it automatically. You do not even have to press save. You can have somebody be an editor or a viewer so that they can leave comments. I love it. Yeah. I stand by it.
Yeah.
Google needs to give me a check. I'm giving them free promotion.
I know, right? They need to come in here and give us some money for this stuff.
That's right.
No more free promotions.
Paid advertisement. Yeah.
Paid advertising. Yeah. So do you use Google Docs too, Ben, or is that just
depends on what kind of thing I'm working on? Sometimes Microsoft Word fits what I'm working on better. Sometimes Google Docs.
Okay.
Find the right tool for the right task, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a straight well, for me, I start with the pen and paper, and then I move to the computer because my notebook looks like a map with just all these lines going, because then I'll write and then I'll scratch and then I was like, wait, no, oh wait, this, then I'll write below and then this needs to go up here, and I start. You would look at like, what is she writing? You can't follow it. It's not one full flow sentence. So I start with the pen and paper and then I move to the computer. And I find if I'm on the road or something and something sparks me, then maybe I'll jot it on my phone. But chances are I have a notebook. I have like a million of these little notebooks somewhere I always have one in my bag. I have in my car. They're all over. So a notebook or a notepad is never too far away to write in. So before we wrap up, I want to let people know where your book can be found. Ayanna?
Okay. So everything can be found on my website at www.harrietreturned, that's an ED at the end.com. And you can find Before There Were Guns, There Were Gods, and also 2 anthologies from our writing class, Power in the Pen. Okay. So I'm also published in those 2 anthologies. And you can also follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my YouTube, because I put out my motivational messages on YouTube. So I'm working on creating a motivational book, and I put out motivational messages Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So everything is Harriet Returned. If you type in Harriet Returned, it will come up.
Okay, and what's your IG handle?
Harriet Returned. Okay. everything is Harriet Returned. Harriet, okay. as in Harriet Tubman. It's a homage to Harriet Tubman, and returned with an ED at the end.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And we will definitely check out and just give us the dates again for your motivational speaking.
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 9 a.m. I drop a new video on Instagram and also on YouTube. And I occasionally will drop a poem or 2 as well. So if you follow me either on Instagram or if you subscribe to my YouTube, you can watch a motivational message 3 times a week.
Okay, excellent. And Ben?
Well, I'm still new to the whole professional promoting author thing, but American Tango should be on Amazon and on the Independent Authors Publication site. And so more should follow soon, so to figure out how it works best.
Yes. And just for full disclosure, Ben is a newly published author, so he's new to the space. So
congratulations, Ben.
Give him yes. So welcome to the world of being a published author, and we hope to see more of your books. We're excited to hear more about that. One of the things that we as authors, we just need to support each other. And this is really why we have this venue and this event, The Author Speaks. We've been doing this now for maybe a year and a half. just having authors come in and share their works. We're really excited. We want to just thank Ayanna for sharing, and Ben and Ayanna for sharing her poem, which was
Thank you.
so powerful, and just really appreciate that, because and to hear that was, you wrote that at 16, you know, that is something that young people need to hear, because they need to understand that your word has power, and your word is, there's power not only in the pen, but it's in your words. You know, you speak it and then you write it. So it's very powerful for them to hear something like that, because you too can do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The thing that changed my life was somebody telling me that I was important enough to be heard, and that what I had to say mattered. And I think every single child should be told the same thing. If you have something that you want to say, if you have a story, if you have a message, you are important enough to be heard.
Yes, that's very important. And I mean, you know, even the other thing is, don't get hung up on time, because I think one of the things that I've heard today just from both of you is that you had these ideas sitting, you wrote them for a while, and you just had them, you know, kind of here. So just to encourage anyone who's listening, that if you have an idea and you have a thought to write, yes, write it, but, you know, don't put it, say, well, it's been 10 years, I can't publish it. No, there's no timestamp on it. Definitely go out there and publish your words, get it published, you know, work with a team. We have our own, our publishing arm, Independent Authors Publications. If you need help, if you don't want to do it by yourself, we can also help you. You know, reach out to someone who can help you to realize your dream, because you, as Anne said, everybody has something to say, and you know, and you want to share your thoughts. So definitely get it out there, get the help you need, join a writers group. We have Power in the Pen. We have the Writers Cafe. Ben, which group did you have? Well, yours are online, but we can also share them as well. But definitely, you know, connect with a group that's going to help you to get your thoughts on paper. I'm going to give the authors one last thought. You want to give one last thought, one final thought before we go?
Ben, you could go ahead.
All right. Well, it's been an honor to be a part of this, and I know 2020 has been probably a challenging year for the majority of people on the planet. I'm just trying to figure out how to make progress in a very challenging time. I'll try my best to make sure American Tango is something that people will enjoy, and hopefully there'll be more stories to follow from there.
Excellent. Yes.
Absolutely. I just want to express my gratitude for you creating this space. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Ben, I wish you much success on your debut book.
Stuff goes well as well.
Thank you. And anything else you create. And I just want to encourage everybody, you if you have a story, your story deserves to be told. And every single story is important. So write that book, write that poem, write that play, write that movie, create, leave something in this world that people will remember you by. That is your legacy. You are all a griot. Tell the history, your own history. Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, well said. So we just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in to another edition of The Author Speaks. Our next Author Speaks will be held on Wednesday, December 16th. The genre will be folklore, fables, myths, and legends. And we have a lot of people who write in that genre. So you're welcome to join us. If you're an author and you know someone who would be interested in presenting at one of our events, they can visit our website at iabx.org to learn more or to register. We also have this session has been recorded, so you can get the recap. If you missed some of it, if you're just tuning in, you can get the recap right here on Facebook, or you can get it on our YouTube channel, Independent Authors Book Experience. Like and subscribe. I'm just learning all of that good stuff. And hit the bell so you can know when we put up news.
That's right.
And if you see our authors, oh, I did not get your handles on social media, Ben. What's your handles?
I'm on Facebook and not too much else, I guess.
Okay. What's your Facebook? Well, if it's not if your personal Facebook, I'd maybe not. If you have a writing, do you have like a writing? You post anything on your writings?
I'm thinking the best way to work on a blog and all that kind of stuff. I'll try to get it out soon.
Okay, so check us, iabx.org, and we will pass on the information about Ben regarding his IG and when he gets his blog going. As we said, Ben is a new artist, so we have to support our new and upcoming artists, authors, because, you know, you have all these big name publishing houses and, you know, everything gets like, they're on the news, but we're here to support the little people. And you know what? And I say the little people, and I mean that in the little people with big hearts and big stories and big writings. And we have so much to say, and we want you to say it here and share it with us. So we just want to thank each and every one of you for popping in to Independent Authors Book Experience and the Author Speaks. Thank you again. Take care until next time. Be well.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Bye. Thank you so much. Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, happy Thanksgiving.
Yes,
oh my gosh, babe. I forgot about that. Happy Thanksgiving, but we will be back. Yeah, happy holidays. We'll be back before the Christmas holiday or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. We'll be back before then. So we will see you all before, but enjoy, gobble, gobble. Be safe. Be safe.
Wear your mask.
Wear your mask.
Wear your mask, people. Sanitize.
And wear over your nose. Not one of these things. Wear over your nose. Please, please be safe. It is really critical right now for everyone out here. Everyone has been touched, you know, in one way or the other with this virus. So please, please, please be safe. Wear your mask. If you don't have to go out, stay in. You know, they're encouraging people with, especially with Thanksgiving, if you don't have to have all the family over, keep it as small as possible because the numbers are going up at an alarming rate. So just be safe out there. Thank you, Ben, for reminding us. And thank you again, my beautiful authors, Ayanna and Ben, for being here. Take care, be well, and we will see you all very soon.
Bye.
Cheers.